This video was produced by Alabama View, a member state of the America View, a consortium dedicated to promoting remote sensing outreach, education, and research. Funded by United States Geological Survey, or USGS, its contents are solely the responsibility of the authors and do not necessarily represent the official views of America View, the USGS, or other partners. The mention of trade names or commercial products does not constitute their endorsements. Hello everyone. In this video we will discuss Alabama's wetlands and their significance to the state and why we should preserve and value them. We will also show maps of wetland distribution that were created using remotely sensed satellite images. First, let's learn what wetlands are. A wetland is one distinct ecosystem that is flooded by water permanently or temporarily throughout the year. They are important to the environment because they provide natural habitat, improve water quality and supply, maintain ecosystem, reduce coastal storm damage, store floodwater, and much more. Here you can see a map of wetland distribution in Alabama and its physiographic divisions. This map shows the approximate distribution of large wetlands in Alabama. Because of limitations of scale and source material, some wetlands are not shown. And did you know, according to the U.S. Geological Survey water, wetlands cover about 10% of Alabama and range in size from small areas of less than an acre like in the Mobile-Tensaw Delta depicted on this slide. And one wetland study says, in Alabama, some of the wetlands in the Mobile Bay area nearly over 25,000 acres, between 62 and 67% of the area's wetlands were geographically isolated and lost. These findings indicate that a significant portion of the state's wetlands have the potential of being geographically isolated, yet there has been no attempt at mapping the entire state. So why is it difficult to map and preserve these wetlands? That would be due to the lack of wetland management and wetland mapping projects being expensive and time-consuming. This process is both labor-intensive and expensive, which means that national wetland mapping efforts like the National Wetland Inventory, or NWI, required very large budgets to complete. We needed the Alabama Wetland Protection Plan to restore the lost wetlands. Though there have been many attempts at mapping U.S. wetlands over the past few decades. One of the first attempts occurred when the United States Fish and Wildlife Services, or FWS, conducted an inventory to map wetland habitats considered to be important to waterfowl. This inventory was conducted first by each state's fieldsmen, identifying areas of the state most likely to contain a high percentage of wetlands important to waterfowl. Once these areas were identified, a field sampling of these locations was performed to determine the wetland type and extent. By number, geographically isolated wetlands are by far the most prevalent and widely distributed type of wetland in the state of Alabama, and perhaps most importantly, they occur mostly on privately owned lands. But what are isolated wetlands? Well, isolated wetlands are wetlands with no surface water connection to perennial streams and rivers, estuaries, or the ocean. And does Alabama have them? Yes, Alabama has isolated wetlands as shown in the map shown on this slide. According to the study, the total number of areas identified as geographically isolated wetlands within the study area was 26,461, with an average extent of 1.859 acres. There was a total wetland area of 49,139 acres identified as geographically isolated, with the largest single area consisting of 463 acres and the smallest consisting of 0.028 acres. As shown in the maps on this slide, Lawrence County had the largest average wetland size at 4.48 acres per wetland, and Lamar County had the smallest average wetland size at 0.58 acres per wetland. While there were over 26,000 areas identified in the study, the entire area comprises less than 1% of the total overall area of the 17 North Alabama counties studied. Of the 26,461 areas identified as geographically isolated wetlands, 19,191 were identified by Geographic Object-Based Image Analysis, or GOBIA. Why are isolated wetlands important? Because of their conservation standpoint of government and environmentalists and financial standpoint of landowners and developers, isolated wetlands have a number of other environmental functions such as surface water storage, floodwater protection, nutrient transformation, water quality maintenance, aquatic productivity, shoreline stabilization, and wildlife habitat. Isolated wetlands are low-lying areas which can store excess surface runoff and drainage, thus reducing local and regional flooding. They also create habitat for waterfowl and native fish, as well as serving as water sources for domestic livestock and humans. Why is remote sensing important when it comes to wetlands? Remote sensing is very valuable when it comes to delineating wetlands, as satellite image interpretation saves a lot of time and money, as provided free by federal research agencies. The identification of wetlands can be easily updated using NAIP or National Agricultural Imagery Program imagery on a regular basis to compare it with previous data and make sustainable, restorable changes. If you want to know how remote sensing helps analyze and understand Alabama's environment, please check out the other videos we have on this channel. Additional information on what our state is doing to protect the wetlands through a wetland monitoring program which ensures that all the data is verified and accurate by the EPA. A link to the document can be found in the description of this video, as well as by scanning the QR code presented on this slide. Thank you so much for watching this video. If you liked our content, please like and subscribe as we continue to make more videos on environmental awareness.